Anti-Catholicism was an attitude often expressed by many Americans in the 18th and 19th century. But how did this culture develop, and how did this prejudice affect the United States? Another cause of anti-Catholicism in America was the mass amount of Catholic immigrants coming to America in the 1800s. In fact, the population of Catholics in America in 1790 was 35,000, but in less than 100 years, in 1850, the population of Catholics was at 1.6 million. These immigrants were mostly from Ireland, Italy, and Eastern Europe. They immigrated due to many factors, most notably the Irish due to famine, and the Italians due to natural disasters and political and economic instability. America had developed a prejudice against these immigrants, so they were not welcome. An example of this prejudice is the so-called nativists in the Know Nothing political party, who believed immigrants were unloyal to America and would follow other leaders from their country or religion, like the Catholic Pope. These nativists also believed that immigrants were stealing jobs from native-born Americans. The anti-immigrant sentiments were often turned on Catholic immigrants, relating the two and providing one answer to the question of why America developed a feeling of anti-Catholicism. The founders of America and many of America's first citizens were Protestant, and many factors led to their prejudice against the Catholic Church. Perhaps one of the biggest contributing factors to anti-Catholicism in America and around the world can be dated back to the 16th century, the Reformation. This was a religious movement led by Martin Luther and John Calvin against corruption that existed in the Catholic Church. They believed the Church had too many man-made rules and the Pope held too much power, so they split off from the Church and created the Protestant religion. During this time, Pope Clement VII refused to let King Henry VIII divorce his wife. So, the Church of England was created and England became a Protestant country. Even though this happened centuries before, the negative feelings about Catholics stuck, and the Protestant colonists, many English, who founded America, kept their prejudice against Catholics, perhaps setting America up to be an anti-Catholic nation. Now that we've covered what caused anti-Catholic culture in America, how did this affect America?
Even though America was founded on principles of religious freedom, anti-Catholicism became a defining prejudice in education, cultural identity, and politics. Anti-Catholic violence started early on as many Catholic immigrants settled in America, and the fear of Catholic influence in a Protestant nation grew. In 1834, a mob burned down the Charleston convent to the ground due to rumors falsely accusing the nuns of imprisoning a young woman. In education, hostility took the form of religious indoctrination. In 1844, riots in Philadelphia started over the fear that Catholics sought to remove Protestant teachings from public schools. As this fear grew, it turned into deadly riots, where mobs of people burned down 2 Catholic churches, killing a dozen people. Public schools, often run by Protestants, included readings from the King James Bible and Protestant prayers. This caused many Catholic students to object to practicing against their religion. One instance of this occurring was the Eliot School Rebellion of 1859, beginning with student Thomas J. Wall refusing to recite Protestant prayers and the Ten Commandments. After his refusal, Wall was beaten for half an hour by his assistant principal, causing 400 students to leave the school in rebellion. When charges were brought against this assistant principal, they were dropped on the account that religious instruction was meant to be a part of teaching. Protestant America had many prejudices against the Catholics. It was a common belief that Catholics were less than civilized and less than white, stemming from the many Catholic Irish and Italian immigrants. They were seen as dangerous and ultimately loyal to Rome. As a part of this prejudice, no Irish need apply signs in newspaper ads and storefronts became increasingly popular. The Know Nothing Party was established, often attacking Catholics, calling them Romanists, who wanted to break down the Protestant foundations of the country. They demonstrated this ideology by vandalizing the Washington Monument during its construction, stealing and destroying a marble block donated by the Vatican, inscribed with the words "Rome to America." They rejected the idea that Catholics could contribute to the nation's identity and wanted to erase Catholic influence from American society. Even as anti-Catholic ideas were expressed in organized action, they also infiltrated art and literature. Specifically, the political cartoonist Thomas Nast regularly depicted Irish Catholics as drunken, violent, and unfit for citizenship. These images reinforced stereotypes that Catholics were not only foreign, but also a threat to democracy and society. The book, Awful Disclosures by Maria Monk, was an alleged story about the horrific abuses and sexual exploitation by priests in a Montreal convent. It was widely distributed in America, convincing many that Catholicism was inherently corrupt and dangerous, even though the story was entirely fake. In response to discrimination in public schools, Catholic communities began establishing parochial schools, ensuring their children could practice their faith without persecution. Even in this, opposition persisted. The Blaine Amendments sought to ban public funding for religious schools. Although they were framed as a defense of secular education, these amendments were largely aimed at Catholic schools, reflecting the ongoing efforts to marginalize Catholic community. From violent mob attacks to discriminatory laws, the legacy of anti-Catholicism shaped the nation's political, educational, and cultural practices. This developed America to be a hard place for Catholics, though helping them become a resilient part of American society today.